Hey everyone, and welcome to today's video. This is part 2 of my foundation declutter. Part 1, I decluttered everything I had in that video. Today I'll be a little less cutthroat, but I'll still be decluttering some of my foundations. This video is part of my declutter series where I am decluttering things that are expired or things that I no longer use. If there's anything usable that I am decluttering, I will not be throwing anything away. I will be giving those items to friends and family. We are preparing to move to a new home in the near future, I hope. I know COVID kind of mixed up our plans, which happened to a lot of people, but I still want to get my collection move-in ready. So stay tuned for more declutter videos from me. But today I will be going through the rest of my foundation declutter, so let's get into it. First up, I have 2 foundations from Kiko Cosmetics, and one of them is my all-time favorite foundation. It is this one, Your Skin But Better CC Plus Color Correcting Illuminating Full Coverage Cream with SPF 50. I have it in the shade Fair Light, which is a pretty good shade match for me. This is my perfect foundation. I have dry skin and this keeps my skin hydrated. It doesn't look cakey, it looks quite natural, and it has that bit of a glow to it. I know there is a bit of a micro glitter in this, but I've never noticed it on my skin. So for me, this melts into my skin just perfectly and gives me this luminous appearance to my skin, which I love. So I will definitely be holding on to this. The second one is something I think I got from Ipsy. It is their Bye Bye Foundation Full Coverage Moisturizer, again with SPF 50, and this one is in the shade Light. I did really like this one. However, I feel like the CC Plus is a little bit more illuminating than this one, and I in general preferred that one, so I'll probably keep on repurchasing the CC Plus and not this Bye Bye foundation. But let me swatch both of these for you guys. So first I have the Fair to Light and then the light shade. There is quite a bit of a difference. I feel like the light shade is better for me during the summer, and then Fair Light is the shade for me during the winter. But I can make both of these work, and like I said, both of them are quite hydrating, but CC Plus a little bit more, which is why I prefer that, and will be repurchasing it and not the Bye Bye foundation. This one is expiring this month, so that's why I will be decluttering this one today. The next foundation I have for you guys is from Wet n Wild, and this is their Photo Focus foundation in the dewy version, and I have this in the shade Rose Ivory. Now, this one is a foundation that I've heard really good things about. Actually, I heard good things about the regular Photo Focus foundation. However, I never could make that work, and that's the case with this dewy as well. It just doesn't sit well on my skin for whatever reason. It does not look dewy at all. It might just be my really dry skin, but I feel like this one is definitely not working for me. However, I'm not ready to declutter it quite yet because it is one of my lightest shades that I have, and sometimes it is a good mixture for darker foundation. So I will be keeping it for that reason, but will not be repurchasing. And here is a quick swatch of that shade Rose Ivory. Like I said, it is quite light, actually lighter than I expected it to be, and it is quite a liquidy foundation. So if you're a fan of kind of liquidy instead of creamy foundation, this might be for you. The next item I have for you guys is from Maybelline, and this is their Matte and Poreless Fit Me foundation in the shade Natural Beige. And as you can see, this is way too dark for me. I'm not entirely sure how I ended up with this shade to begin with, but I am going to declutter it because it is just way too dark for me. However, I would like to try this formula sometime in the future. I've heard good things about it. Even though it is a matte foundation, it doesn't seem like it is drying. It is quite lightweight and liquidy, so I might at some point repurchase it in another shade, but for right now I do not need it, and it is the wrong shade, so I will be decluttering it. The next foundation is again one of those foundations that are too light for me, but I will be keeping this for mixer reasons. This is from LOreal. It is their Covergirl cream foundation, and I have it in the shade Porcelain, and like I said, it is quite a bit too light. However, it is a very thick, high coverage foundation. So if I mix it with a foundation that is slightly liquidy or way too dark for me, I get excellent results. So I do like this foundation. However, I was never able to find a shade match for me. So I ended up with porcelain, which is too light for me, just because I know I can mix it up with other foundations. But for that reason, I will be keeping it. However, I don't think I will repurchase. Next up, I have a foundation that is newer to me. This is from Kiko Cosmetics, and this is their full cover foundation. I have it in the shade 20C, and I swatched it already for you guys. It is a pretty good shade match for me, especially in the summer. The reason why I'm keeping this is not alone that it's new. It's because I absolutely love the coverage it gives. It has absolutely wonderful coverage. It looks great in photos, and that's one of the reasons why I'm also keeping it. I've really been enjoying this, even though I haven't used it that much yet, but I will definitely be using it. And I think when the winter comes and my skin tone is a little bit lighter, I might mix it with that Wet n Wild Dewy foundation in Rose Ivory, get the perfect shade match for me, or I might get another shade of this. Either way, I'm definitely keeping this one. Next up, I have a foundation I am going to part ways with, which is a little bit surprising to me. But this is the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear Foundation with SPF 25. Now, this was quite the hyped foundation a while back on YouTube. People were raving about the coverage, and I agree, the coverage is excellent. However, I could never make this work on my skin. I tried all sorts of hydrating primers, yet it still felt so dry. Now I have it in the shade Porcelain, which is a little bit light for me, and this would have probably been a really good mixer with that Kiko foundation to lighten it up, but I don't want to keep it just for that, since I'm keeping another couple of other foundations as mixers, and like I said, I could not make this work for me, so I will not repurchase, and I will be decluttering this one. The next foundation I have for you guys is from Pacifica, and this is their Light Clean Foundation, which is oil-free, anti-shine, and satin finish. Vegan and cruelty-free foundation. I have it in the shade Warm Light, which is a pretty good shade match for me. This foundation, I'm still kind of getting used to it. It is a little bit on the thicker side. I have to be quite careful when I apply it so it doesn't look too cakey, but at the end of the day, it looks pretty good on me. I think for an oil-free anti-shine foundation, I think it looks pretty good on my dry skin. So I will keep this and keep on using it. I might declutter it in the future if it doesn't work on my winter skin, but on my summer skin, it looked great. So I'll definitely be keeping this one. However, next up, I have a foundation I am ready to part with. This is from Rimmel, and it is their classic Stay Matte Liquid Mousse Foundation in the shade Light Porcelain. Here is that shade, Light Porcelain, quite light shade, a little bit too light for me, but I just cannot get used to the liquid mousse texture. I have dry skin and it just never looked good on my skin. I tried with a lot of different primers. Again, I know this works for a lot of people, but for me, I feel like mousse foundations in general are just not a good fit. I still like to try them because I like trying out new makeup, and this kind of texture is intriguing to me. However, this does not work for me, so I will be decluttering it. Next up, I have a foundation from Revlon. This is their Photo Ready Candid Natural Finish Anti-Pollution Foundation, and this one is in the shade 120 Buff. And I do like this one. I just feel like I haven't used it enough. The shade match is pretty good, especially for during the winter. And I think I'm going to add this to my everyday makeup drawer just to make sure I'll get some use out of it before it goes bad. But I did like this, and I feel like it did work on my dry skin quite well with a hydrating primer. So I will keep holding on to this. Next up, I have another L'Oreal foundation. This is their Filter First Luminous Foundation in the shade Porcelain. Now, the shade Porcelain is quite dark in my opinion. This is nowhere near the porcelain shades I have, but this foundation is quite liquidy and it does look quite nice on my skin. And now that I think of it, I don't know why I haven't thought about this before, but I could easily mix Coverlock and Filter First together to create a better shade and a little bit of a better coverage. together. So I'm definitely going to keep using this and just mixing those two together. The shade, like I said, porcelain is not porcelain at all, but again, the Coverlook porcelain is just too light for me. So I think together they might work great. Let me swatch them side by side for you. So here is the Coverlook porcelain and the Filter First porcelain, and as you can see, they are nowhere near the same shade, but maybe together they would be a better shade match for me, and I could make both of them work that way. And now that I swatched them together, I am pretty happy with that. So I'll definitely start mixing these two, and I will update you guys in the future videos how this mixing went. But I will be holding on to both of these. Next up, I have recent discovery. This is from CeraVe, and it is their Hydrating Sunscreen Broad Spectrum SPF 30 Face Sheer Tint. And this is a tinted mineral sunscreen, which doesn't exactly scream foundation, but it does have some coverage, and the shade is pretty good for me. However, like I said, it is at most light coverage, if even there. It's more of an skin tone evening product, and I do really like that it has SPF 30 and it has skincare benefits as well, so I will definitely be holding on to it. And as you can see, there's like little to no coverage, but it just evens out your skin tone a little bit, which is something I really enjoyed this summer. So I will keep holding on to this and using it as a tinted sunscreen. Next up, I have a bit of a similar product from Colourpop. This is their Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Acid Tinted Moisturizer, and I have it in the shade Light 5N. This is a pretty good shade match for me, and this is a very light coverage tinted moisturizer, like the name says. It evens out the skin tone even better than the sunscreen that I mentioned, so I use it like a foundation on those like kind of no foundation days. I like this product a lot. However, my only beef with it is that it has no SPF, which is probably why I will not be repurchasing, even though I like the product. I feel like tinted moisturizers should have that built-in SPF into them, because I use them on days when I don't want to make a lot of effort to look too put together, which would really help me if it also had that SPF. But other than that, I do like it. Next item is a long-time favorite. This is from Covergirl, and it is their Clean Matte BB Cream. It says for oily skin, but I'll get to that in a little bit, in the shade 510 Fair. And this is a pretty good shade match for me. I do like this foundation a lot, even though it says it's for oily skin. I think it works great in photos. In fact, this is the foundation I've been wearing for photos at work when they take our staff photos or something like that. I've been wearing this one. It doesn't have any flashback. It just looks really good on my skin during photos. It doesn't have any SPF, and I feel like it is definitely more of a foundation than a BB cream. I'm not sure what the skincare benefits in this are, but it does feel nice, it looks nice, and I will keep holding on to it. Next up, I have two foundations from Catrice. Both are from their HD Liquid Coverage Foundation line. First one is in the shade Light Beige, and the second one Rose Beige. And here they are swatch for you guys. First up, I have Light Beige and then Rose Beige, and together they make a really good shade match for me, so that's why I have two of them. However, I noticed they are separating, and there are some yellow patches in this Light Beige one and some clumps in the Rose Beige one. So unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to declutter them. I already decluttered one of these in my last video, and I honestly thought these were still good, but clearly they're not, so I am going to have to declutter them, even though I do really like this formula for its high coverage. However, it is a little bit drying, so I do need to use a really good hydrating primer with them. I might repurchase at some point. Right now, I have way too many foundations. I do not need any more. But once I have gone through some of these, I will probably repurchase, because this formula is amazing when it comes to coverage. Next up, I have a foundation that has been hyped for a long time already, and for a good reason. This is from Too Faced, and it is their Peach Perfect Comfort Matte Foundation infused with peach and sweet fig milk. It is oil-free, and I have it in the shade Nude. Here is the swatch of Nude. Initially, I thought this shade would be way too dark for me, but when I applied it, actually doesn't look that bad, especially on my summer skin. But I think for the winter, I will have to mix it with one of the other foundations, maybe the dewy one from Wet n Wild again, because that is a little bit more hydrating than this one. But honestly, at first I was a little bit skeptical, and which is why it took me so long to get this one, because it said matte, and I have really dry skin, but this does not feel drying on my skin. It does give me this matte finish without drying my skin, and I really do like it. I've heard that they are maybe discontinuing this, which it would be a bummer. I hope they come up with another formula quite like this, because I love it. And then another thing I heard, that it does have this distinct peach scent. However, I haven't noticed it being that overpowering, and it hasn't irritated my sensitive skin. So all in all, this is a win for me, and I will definitely keep this one. The next foundation I have for you guys is from Becca, and this is their Ultimate Coverage 24 foundation, and this is in the shade Cashmere. Here's a swatch of it. It is a pretty good shade match for me, so for that reason I've been holding on to it. However, it is not good with my dry skin. I can make it work for photos. I've used it in my Instagram photos. It just makes my skin look nice for a few minutes, and then it looks like, you know, Grand Canyon. It looks super dry. It emphasizes every texture on my skin, and I just don't feel comfortable wearing it. My skin feels too tight, even though I use really hydrating primers. I used the primer oil, and I still couldn't make it work. It is a little bit of a thicker foundation. The coverage is pretty good, but it is just not for me, which is why I will be decluttering it. Someone else will enjoy it more than I do. And the last foundation I have for you guys is the one that is newest to my collection. This is from Josie Maran, and it is their Vibrancy Argan Oil Foundation Fluid. I have it in the shade RG20 Euphoric, and here is the swatch of it. I feel like the undertone is a little bit off for me, but I can totally make this work on my skin as well. I have not used this enough to give you guys my full thoughts on it, but so far I've really enjoyed it. It is super lightweight, but it has a wonderful coverage. And also, I do like that it has that oil base, because I have very dry skin, so it feels super comfortable. But I have to test it some more to know if it is something that I love, but so far I truly like it. So I will definitely be holding on to this one. So these were the foundations in my foundation declutter part 2. I will be decluttering 7 foundations. Some of these have gone bad, some just don't work for my skin. I'll get maybe a couple of uses out of this bye-bye foundation until it expires. So I will keep on using it for those, and then I will just have to throw it away. I'll try to see if any of my family and friends would like a couple of these foundations that are still usable, if they would like it for the shade match, or if they would enjoy it. I feel like this Becca foundation will work for someone with oily skin just fine. But then I will be keeping these 12 foundations, and these are some of my favorite foundations. Like I said, my absolutely most favorite one is the CC Plus cream. I truly do enjoy the Peach Perfect. I am getting to love the Josie Maran Vibrancy. I use the sunscreen quite frequently, and I already love the Koki one. The rest are foundations that I will either use as mixers, or this Covergirl is just a classic I want to keep in my collection. I need to use this Candid foundation a little bit more to know whether or not I should keep it or not, but so far I have really enjoyed it. And like I said, I do like the Pretty Fresh or tinted moisturizer, but I probably won't be repurchasing after this. But these were all my foundations for this week. I truly did enjoy doing this foundation declutter series. I feel like I am going to, again, look at my foundations probably beginning of next year or somewhere there, just to see if any of these are foundations I am willing to part with. but I did go from 46 foundations to 12, which I feel is a declutter success for sure. Now, I need to be mindful when I purchase more foundations. I clearly had way too many. I need to hold on to these, go through them before I purchase more foundations, unless I run out of this CC Plus, which, like I said, is my all-time favorite. Can't live without foundation. But other than that, I need to curb my need to purchase foundations. But I'm so glad I decluttered as many as foundations as I did. All in all, I did declutter 34 foundations, which is amazing. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of these speed reviews. If you're not subscribed to my channel yet, I hope you subscribe. And if you like these kind of declutter videos and want to see more of their kind, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.